Hi everybody, welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Whittle. Well, in the aftermath of yet another mass shooting, the father of the unnamed murderer, unnamed by me anyway, said that he had no idea how his son managed to stockpile his arsenal of guns. If he'd not been able to get a hold of 13 guns, then this wouldn't have happened, said the father of the mass murderer. That's what guns are, the killers. Simple as that. Simple as that, he said. Now, he's not alone in this belief, by the way, that the guns are the killers. All of liberal America believes this to be true. And if it is true, then we as a nation need to follow this idea to its logical conclusion, which forces conservatives like me to ask some questions that we may not like the answers to. For instance, what made these 5 guns go on a murder spree while at the same time almost 300 million other guns were either peacefully resting or protecting their owners? Were these guns mistreated or mishandled in some way? Is that what caused them to snap and open fire? Why did some guns choose to go on the killing rampage while other guns decided to stay at home? Was a single homicidal gun brought into the collection which then co-opted the others? Or had these guns all come from bad backgrounds? Would a late-night social services program maybe being used to start midnight track events or something, let's say? Would that kind of thing have prevented these guns from becoming murderers in the first place? These are the kinds of complex social issues that we simple-minded conservatives need to face. In other words, look, it's the steal. Now, if that sounds ridiculous, that's because it is ridiculous. You see, if it had been me, if I'd just been informed that my son had just gunned down 9 people in cold blood, my first reaction would have been to get in my car, drive very far away, and sit silently sobbing for hours or days or years or decades, trying to relive every single second of our time together to see where and how I could have failed that boy so badly. I would dissect every moment we spent together or didn't spend together, and I would carry my catastrophic failure with me for the rest of my life. And so would any other actual father, which is why, ultimately, liberals want to blame the guns, because if it's the guns, then it's the steal. And if it's the steal, then it's not them, right? The reasons the liberals have to blame the steal is because the single great correlator of violent prison inmates is not, unfortunately for the narrative, the offender's economic background or their race or the neighborhoods they came from. The one thing that virtually all of them have in common, these violent offenders, is that they are fatherless boys. The murderer who shot up the church in Charleston, the Boston Marathon murderers, virtually all of them are these fatherless, bitter, angry boys, and they're going to keep coming, and their numbers are going to increase, not decrease, as they, like the Oregon shooter, specifically look for the attention and the validation that they did not receive from their absent or very weak fathers. Now, just about a week before the shootings in Oregon, the uber-liberal New York Times came up with 27 ways to be a modern man. Being a modern man today is no different than it was a century ago. It's all about adhering to principle, begins the article. So, what are some of those principles? Well, according to the article, number 1, when the modern man buys shoes for his spouse, he doesn't have to ask her sister for the size, and he knows which brands run big or small. Number 10, the modern man makes sure that the dishes on the rack have dried completely before putting them away. Number 20, on occasions, the modern man is the little spoon. Some nights, when he's feeling down or vulnerable, he needs an emotional and physical shield. Number 25, the modern man has no use for a gun. He doesn't own one, and he never will. Number 26, the modern man cries. He cries often. Well, guess what? A lot of people were crying and crying often as that fatherless murderer shot them in the head one by one. One man, however, a little more old-fashioned apparently, was former Army veteran Chris Mintz, who probably missed the New York Times memo because he had, in fact, had use for a gun, and he knew how they worked, and he knew what those sounds meant, and so he alone set an alarm and then ran towards, not away from, the sound of gunfire, and tried to block the door to prevent the shooter from entering. He was shot 7 times resisting, not once in the head, while standing up against a wall. He's already out of the hospital and expected to make a full recovery. Chris is not a modern New York Times man who cries a lot. He's one of those old-fashioned men like Anthony Sadler, Spencer Stone, and Alex Skarlatos. You know, the 3 old-fashioned American men who saved an entire trainload of frequently crying modern men from a Muslim assassin on that train in France a few months ago. By the way, Spencer Stone was attacked by a feral pack of renegade knives in Sacramento just a few days ago and stabbed repeatedly. So, if it seems like the steal is getting a little restless lately, a little bit more frequently bloodthirsty, it's only because the steal needed to defend us against murder and insanity. The steal in the hearts of real men like Mintz and Sadler and Stone and Skarlatos. Well, that steal is getting rarer. Liberals think that banning guns or knives or human-driven cars or big soda drinks will make America safe. Well, guess what? America wasn't designed to be safe. America was designed to be free. You can have freedom without safety, or you can have safety without freedom. And without the safety. There's no such thing as safety. Ask the families of those scores of kids who were gunned down on that remote island at that private school in Norway about safety. Safety is an illusion. It's a temporary bubble of psychological security provided by loving parents to protect children until they slowly become adult enough to face the reality of a dangerous world. You don't like murder and insanity? Well, guess what? Me neither. But that's too bad, because murder and insanity don't care. They're there, and they're getting worse. And the best efforts of effeminate, mincing, physical cowards sitting in skyscrapers in New York City to redefine manhood down to their pathetic level of weakness is not going to stop murder and insanity. It's only going to make it worse. Boys are turned into men by loving fathers who have the strength to set them on the difficult paths of honor, discipline, and mental toughness. That's where the real steel and the responsibility is or isn't. It's not in a closet full of inanimate objects which the left wants to throw into a volcano to appease the gods of murder and insanity that they themselves have done so much to create.